Okay, as part of your Florida prepping for a hurricane, or actually more specifically for an extended period of time without power and emergency authorities available, you're going to need a first aid kit. You should have a first aid kit in your house, but get something that will serve your purpose during an emergency. If for your daily use, you can always have a box of Band-Aids, or the things that you think you'll use more on a daily basis. However, in case some kind of disaster or an emergency, you need something that's a little bit bigger, more equipped, because help may not be immediately available, and it's up to you to do whatever it takes to save life or limb. Now, before I begin, I am not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. Some of the things that I may tell you are simply based on my personal experience as a combat medic and clinical specialist while in the Army. But I am not giving you any medical advice. That's my disclaimer. But anyway, I got this at Amazon, and they sell them in many other places, of course. And this one is a 50-person kit with 250 pieces. Believe it or not, this actually cost, with shipping and tax, it cost about $24, somewhere in that range. And when I was looking at it, at the contents, I think if I would have gone out and bought some of these things myself, I would have been right at about that price or higher, but not cheaper by doing it myself. So a kit like this is very handy to start with. I said start with. Some of the things that I would have also available are feminine napkins, for example, the maxi pads. And the reason is that those are designed to absorb blood. And I'm not trying to get gross here or anything, I'm just being practical. So those pads are available for that particular purpose. So in case of a trauma and an emergency, you need to stop the bleeding. And those are perfect for aiding you to stop that bleeding while you put pressure and you get professional help. Of course, they wouldn't fit here, but you can keep them all together, and you would use it in combination with other things. Remember that the purpose is to save life or limb, and that's your whole purpose. So another thing that I would have with the kit, believe it or not, is super glue. If you have a laceration, you can actually blot it, put some super glue, and just keep the two pieces of skin close together until that glue takes effect, right? Then you can finish protecting it. Another thing that's excellent, and I use it all the time, is new skin. It's a little bottle. It looks like a nail polish bottle, about so big. It costs a few dollars, actually about $6 or $7. And it's like a plastic Band-Aid. It's also an antiseptic, and when you blot the blood out, you you brush on the new skin, and you'll feel the burn because it has an antiseptic inside and you have an open wound. But by blowing on it carefully, you begin to dry it almost within a minute. It should be dry, stopping the bleeding. Not only does it stop the bleeding, but it aids in the healing of the skin because it does not allow any germs or foreign particles to contaminate the wound opening. So new skin or super glue, whichever one you have available, and don't worry if it looks pretty or not. Again, you want to save life or limb. Another thing that I would have is duct tape. The color doesn't matter, but I would prefer a bright one because if you have to use it, you want to make sure that when emergency professionals do attend yourself or that person, that they see where you use the duct tape. This is not sterile, so I'd rather worry about keeping a wound from getting infected later than from bleeding out. So duct tape is very useful. You can use it in so many different applications. You'd be surprised how many airlines are flying simply because of duct tape in some parts of the world. But say, for example, you have somebody hurts their arm and you have a suspected fracture. One of the things that you have to do for a fracture is to immobilize it. So what you would do is you can take a magazine or 2 magazines and you want to stabilize it by folding the magazines over like this, and that will give it a little bit of rigidity to keep those bones from crushing against each other. And then what you do is you take some of the duct tape and you tape it over. Don't worry about the hairs. That's the least of the problems at this point. Something that's even a little bit more rigid, just take a little piece of cardboard and you use it like that, and then you put the duct tape. Before you do that, of course, if there's an open wound, make sure that you blot it, stop the bleeding, cover it up, and then stabilize the area with something like this. Of course, this has to be cut to size, but you get the idea. Use the duct tape to put it on. In case of real bleeding wound, duct tape. Duct tape, you can actually use it as a tourniquet and or a constricting band. Let's say a snake bite, for example. You can use it to constrict the blood flow and keep the poisoning from invading your body, or a tourniquet. Remember that if you have help available, let's say within 2 hours, you want to stop the bleeding, get professional help to take care of the wound. If professional help is not available within 2 hours, you may want to release just a little bit to let some circulation go through that limb, so that you want to save that limb. You don't want it to die completely. So, and then tighten up the tourniquet again because you want to save the life. Right? So duct tape is incredibly useful, and it's something that I would include in some kind of a disaster type of a first aid kit. So basically that's it. You know, just look at the contents, determine what else you would need. In this case, this little packet has just about everything that you need, but in small amounts. You have cold packs, you have heat packs, you have aspirin, you have burn cream, you have antibiotic ointments, you have aspirin, you have Tylenol, you have cleaning towels. So you have a lot of things in here which would be a good starter kit, and then you supplement it with those other things that I mentioned. That would be my advice for your first aid kit in case of an extreme emergency where you have the authorities are not going to be readily available to you.